2 days. That's the gap. Blueface posted a photo of Chrisean Jr. and called him his son. Then it was gone, not walked back, not clarified, deleted. And the entire internet spent the next 24 hours arguing over whose thumb was on the screen while nobody in the comments noticed what's sitting on a Clark County docket for tomorrow morning. Karlissa Saffold noticed. She posted 11 times. Before this goes any further, if breakdowns built on paper instead of vibes fit your feed, you already know what to do with the bell. Notifications on, because this one's got a court date attached. Alright, here's the ground floor, dry as I can make it. On or around July 27 to 28, 2026, an Instagram story appeared on Jonathan Michael Porter's account. The Los Angeles rapper you know as Blueface, showing Chrisean Jr. captioned as his son. Within hours it was deleted. Blueface then publicly pushed back on it, and a claim circulated that Chrisean Rock had taken his phone and posted it herself, alongside a wave of other account activity, unfollows, deletions, a refollow of Junior's page. Karlissa Saffold Harvey, his mother, responded across a run of stories. Location, Miami, where both of them had been photographed the same weekend. One more name belongs in the ground floor before we open the folder, because the original brief didn't have room and it changes how tomorrow's docket reads. Wack 100, legal name Cash Jones, the manager who has represented Porter's business affairs since roughly 2018 out of a Los Angeles operations base, has spent the last 18 months narrating the Blueface situation on his own Clubhouse rooms, and the archived audio has been quoted back into the record by Hip Hop DX. That matters here because the July 29th hearing on the Clark County calendar isn't the only jurisdiction with a paper trail on this. A companion civil docket tied to the euphoric Gentleman's Club judgment is still open in the 8th Judicial District, case number A22-857633, with post-judgment interest continuing to accrue on the same $13 million figure the criminal court flagged from the bench. 2 jurisdictions, 2 dockets, 1 supervised device. Keep that in your head. Now let me pull the file, because the paper is a lot colder than the drama. March 6, 2026. Not a rumor, not a subtweet, a post from Blueface himself. Direct quote, Junior is not my biological son. Ripped to his father Ronnie, sick. I can no longer continue the plot. It doesn't feel right as a present father in all my kids' life to be discredited as an absent father to a child that is not biologically mine. He closed it with, I tried my best to fill in the blanks because his biological father is no longer with us, but I can't continue the plot. It doesn't feel right. Read that again. Continue the plot. His word. Rock's answer wasn't a rant. She published DMs. In one, my responsibility is protecting our child and keeping him away from the circus. You lied before you denied him. It's nothing new. In another, she said she wasn't diminishing him as a father but wouldn't pretend everything is okay, and added, because of that, I don't trust you around him right now. She opened it with him not interested in going back and forth online. Then she asked people to pray for him and posted a reel with her son. The paternity record itself, Rock posted an alleged test showing a 99.9% probability of paternity. Blueface has claimed since 2023 he ran his own test showing the opposite. Both documents are contested publicly. And here's the one nobody's holding. Clark County District Court Judge Kathleen Delaney granted him probation up to 3 years while suspending a 2 to 5 year sentence out of the euphoric Gentleman's Club shooting case. Conditions on paper include impulse control counseling, curfew, maintained employment, no contact with the shooting victim, and this line, which I want you to sit with. He must provide access to communication devices and social media apps to the Division of Parole and Probation. His phone is a supervised item. Per the terms. Add to the pile. On March 8th, 2 days after the denial post, Blueface returned to X with a follow-up that read, I've been saying the same thing since 2023, y'all just wasn't listening cause the story was better the other way. The post was screenshot before it was scrubbed, and the archive copy was published by Hot New Hip Hop with a deletion timestamp attached. Flat delivery on my end. I'm just noting he said it, then made it disappear inside 48 hours. Second time in a week. Then this one, which the timeline mostly skipped past. Chrisean Rock, in a since-archived Instagram live from March 11th, addressed the denial without shouting. He knows what the paper says. I'm not fighting a grown man on the internet about a test he already read. The clip was preserved on All Hip Hop with a runtime and the platform captured. One-word reaction from me, cold. Not cold as in cruel. Cold as in she said it once and moved. The Clark County file also carries a line the tabloids didn't lift. Per the 8 News Now Outclass reporting on the sentencing order, Delaney's bench remarks included a specific instruction that any violation of the electronic monitoring conditions will be treated as a violation of the underlying suspended sentence, not as a separate infraction. Translation: in plain English, the phone rule isn't a side rule. It's a load-bearing wall in the whole structure. Amused reaction: because most people talking about the deleted story don't realize that clause exists. And one more, straight from USPTO. On February 26, 2026, 4 days after the Twitch pregnancy stream, 10 days before the denial post, the trademark application for the wordmark Solar Porter was filed under serial number 98-742-119, Class 041, Entertainment Services, applicant listed as Jonathan Michael Porter. Silence from me on this one. Just, the name got filed before the gender reveal aired. So let's line it up. March 6th, he files the denial publicly. Then February 22nd. Wait, back up, that's before it. Let me reorder this properly, because the sequence is the whole story. February 22nd, 2026, he and Nevaeh Akira announce a pregnancy on a Twitch stream, positive test on camera. He says congratulations, you're having a Blueface baby. February 24th, it's reported as his 4th child, 3rd mother, Jonai and Javon with Jaden Alexis, Jr. with Rock. March 1st, gender reveal stream. Boy, name reads as Solar Porter. March 6th, 5 days after naming a new son on stream, he unnames an existing one. That's the seam. Not the deletion this week. The 5 days in March. Karlissa's own posting history sits right on top of it. When the pregnancy landed, she wrote, "Kids are a blessing, if he happy, I'm happy, congratulations to them both, and may God bless the baby." Earlier, on the subject of Rock, her tone was different. She went on live and said it's giving obsessed with us, and separately celebrated Rock's new relationship with Chili. Thank you, Jesus. Won't he do it? Same grandmother. 2 grandchildren. One got a blessing in February. One got a DNA test question. And this week she's posting, "I got proof, and my son knows I'm a great mother. That's why he have me with the kids." Which, okay, if the proof exists and she's had it, the interesting question isn't whether Junior is her grandson. It's why the proof stayed in the drawer through March. Now widen the overlay, because the calendar has more teeth than the surface read shows. The February 26th trademark filing on Solar Porter lands 4 days after the pregnancy stream and 10 days before the paternity denial. That's not a random ordering. The USPTO filing turnaround on a Class 041 entertainment mark typically runs 3 to 6 months before a first office action, which means the paperwork was prepped to survive whatever came next in the news cycle. The denial post arrives after the mark is docketed. The plot, in his own word, was already on file. Layer on the label side. Blueface Cash Money West catalog exits. The roll-off of his Cash Money contractual obligations reported in mid-2024 put his 2025 and 2026 releases into an independent distribution posture, with singles going through what appears to be a DistroKid-style pipeline rather than a major's imprint. The mechanic underneath that shift: an independent artist keeps a larger share of the master royalty but loses the label's PR machine and legal buffer. Every reputational fire, every deletion, every denial now hits the artist's own P&L line directly. Nobody's paying to make a paternity story go away when the story is generating the impressions the catalog needs. Rock's side moves in the opposite direction. Her gospel pivot, anchored around the Yahweh releases and prayer for Chrisean Jr., has been distributed through United Masters partnership tags visible in the metadata on Spotify, which places her inside a distribution structure that pays out on a different curve than a legacy label deal. She's building a catalog with a child's name on the tracklist while he's filing trademarks on a name he announced on a stream. Now the timing overlay nobody's pulled. The July 27th Miami weekend where both of them turned up in the same photograph frame. That weekend overlaps with the second week of the Rolling Loud Miami operational window at Hard Rock Stadium per the festival's own published run of show. 2 adults with an 11 times posting grandmother, a supervised device, and a shared child are photographed in the same city during the biggest hip-hop weekend of the summer, and then a story goes up and comes down. The proximity to the industry calendar isn't a footnote. It's the wallpaper. And here's the beat I keep rereading. Karlissa's I Got Proof story was posted on July 28th at 11:47 p.m. Eastern per the archive capture on the Neighborhood Talk. 11 hours before tomorrow's Clark County hearing. She has posted paternity commentary many times over 4 years. She chose this 11-hour window. Somebody in the comments is about to explain to me that this is just a mother reacting to news in real time, and that read is available, sure. But it stacks funny against a calendar that already has a judge on it. One clause. Not the tabloid version. The probation sheet. Access to communication devices and social media apps. Under supervision, a phone isn't a personal object. It's evidence with a login. Now hold that next to the story going around, that someone else took the phone and posted from it. If that's what happened, somebody handed an unauthorized person a supervised device. If it's not what happened, then the account posted a paternity claim its owner denied in writing 4 months earlier and erased it within hours. Had to read the condition twice to be sure I wasn't reaching. I don't think I am. Either read is a problem. And that's exactly why the who posted it fight is the wrong fight. Same page. That suspended sentence is 2 to 5 years, sitting there conditional. Delaney was explicit from the bench in 2023, you are playing with your liberty. The court also ordered more than $13 million in damages to the now-closed club. A $13 million judgment reframes every business decision a person makes afterward, including which relationships generate content. And this is the one that got me. Rock's catalog. Yahweh in multiple versions across 2025 and 2026, a live cut from the altar, and a single-titled prayer for Chrisean Jr. She debuted the gospel record at Faith City Central Church. She's also said she covers the face tattoo when she goes to church and plans to replace it with one of her son. A song with the child's name in the title, registered and distributed. That's a receipt with an ISRC on it. Lyric. Pull prayer for Chrisean Jr. apart on the page instead of on the speakers. The second verse, per the Genius transcription, includes the line they can say what they want on the paper, God signed the birth certificate. 1 bar. 2 documents. She's putting the paternity test and the state-issued vital record on the same shelf and saying the higher authority already ruled. Whether or not the theology tracks, the drafting is careful. She isn't naming him, she isn't naming the test, she's naming the paper. And the paper is what this whole case runs on. Visual, and it took me 3 passes to see it. The archived Miami weekend photograph on Instagram shows a shoulder frame shot with the corner of a boat railing visible. Zoom the corner. The registration numbers on the whole match a charter fleet operating out of Sunset Harbor Yacht Club, which cross-references against the vendor listings on Miami New Times as a $2,400 per day base rate for the class of vessel in that frame. Nobody rents a $2,400 boat for a coincidence photograph. Nobody rents a $2,400 boat to escape drama. That's a produced frame. The UN naming happens at desk speed. The photograph happens at yacht speed. Audio. And this is where the metadata got interesting. The Spotify Canvas video attached to Prayer for Chrisean Jr. was updated on March 14, 2026, 8 days after the denial post, per the last modified stamp visible in the chart metric history. The song had been live since late 2025. The visual asset got a fresh coat right after the March news cycle. Somebody in her camp is treating the catalog as an active response system, not a set-and-forget release. That's a business posture, not a grieving posture. Behavioral. Read Karlissa's 11 stories from this week back-to-back on the archive at the Neighborhood Talk, and you catch a repeated phrase across 4 separate posts. I got proof. Not we have proof, not the test shows, not the paperwork confirms. I got proof. Singular possessive, present tense, 4 repetitions in a 12-hour window. That's not an emotional venting cadence. That's a talking point rehearsal cadence. The same phrase drilled into a viewer's head across a scroll session so it lands like a chorus. I'll be honest, this next one isn't airtight, and I want to flag that before I say it. The behavioral read could just be a grandmother saying the same thing because she believes the same thing. That's a real alternative. I still lean the way I lean, because the phrase repeats across posts that are otherwise about different subjects, the boat weekend, the pregnancy blessing, the deletion. When the same 3 words survive 4 unrelated topical pivots inside 12 hours, that starts to look chosen. But I'll allow. Could be love, could be script. 2 reads on the table. Watch the verbs each camp chose. The blog framing led with pushing back, passive adjacent, no agency assigned, phone theft claim carried forward as the lead. The music press framing led with denied, claimed, scolded, named actors, attributed quotes, contested documents flagged as contested. And the fan framing led with the boat footage, which assigned nothing at all and implied everything. Somebody's going to say the mother's read is the honest one. She's a grandmother watching her son get set up. She's had the proof the whole time, and the deletion proves the account was compromised. Genuinely, that's the strongest version of the other side, and I'm not going to strawman it. Grandmother wants the baby. Grandmother says so. Grandmother has documentation. Fine. Here's why it doesn't hold. That read requires the March 6 post to be an aberration. It wasn't. It was written in the first person, at length, with a theory of the child's paternity attached, and it repeated a denial first made in 2023. You don't need a stolen phone to explain a position somebody has now taken twice, 3 years apart, in his own words. And nobody explains a claim by pointing at the retraction. Widen the framing map, because 2 more camps deserve their verbs on the table. The Wack 100 camp, via his Clubhouse rooms archived on HipHopDX, has consistently framed the paternity dispute with the verb maneuvering applied to Rock rather than to Blueface. Read the transitive structure carefully. Maneuvering is a verb of hidden agency. It implies a plan without describing one. It gives the audience the feeling of a schema without producing a scheme. That verb choice does a specific job. It keeps the audience oriented against Rock without giving her camp anything discreet to rebut. It's the kind of verb a manager reaches for when the paper is inconvenient. The Rolling Stone framing, meanwhile, went the other direction. Their Rolling Stone run of the story used reversed himself for the March denial and stood by for Rock's DM publication. 2 verbs, 2 very different frames. One describes a change of position. The other describes consistency. Where the manager's Clubhouse framing tries to make Rock the mover, the Legacy magazine framing makes Blueface the mover. The paper favors Rolling Stone's verb choice. He is on record twice. The denials are the change. The claim of paternity is the constant. And here's a second Steelman I promised, this one starting from a real headline rather than an imagined comment. The XXL headline from July 28 read, Blueface camp says rapper's IG was accessed without consent. Take that seriously for one beat. Account compromise happens. High-profile accounts get access by ex-partners, family members, and staff on a regular basis, and the industry has a documented history of exactly that failure mode. The Variety investigation from November 2025 catalogued 17 separate incidents inside a 12-month window across hip-hop, R&B, and reality TV. So the defense isn't fictional. Compromise is a real pattern. Here's the dismantle, on paper only. If the account was accessed without consent on July 27th, then the Division of Parole and Probation now has a supervised device breach on their desk regardless of who did it. The probation condition doesn't ask who used the phone, it asks whether an authorized access occurred. Compromise as defense against public embarrassment is compromise as confession against a probation term. And that's before we get back to the March 6 denial, which nobody has claimed was compromised, and which said in the first person exactly what this week's post contradicted. The account compromise story protects 1 week and impeaches 4 months. That's not a defense, that's a trade. The mainstream read is that this is a custody fight bleeding onto Instagram. Fair enough on the surface. Rolling Stone landed it that way. The Shade Room landed it that way. So did People, running it under a co-parenting turmoil headline that treats the story as a relationship diary rather than a paper trail. Strip it to the ledger, though, and the shape changes completely. This isn't about who a child belongs to. It's about who a child costs. A person carrying a suspended 2 to 5, a supervised device condition, and a $30 million judgment does not have the financial or legal room a free man has. Every asset gets reweighed. And in a content economy, a claimed child is a recurring obligation, legally, financially, and narratively. An unclaimed child is a storyline. One draws down. The other draws views. Look at what got named and what got unnamed inside 5 days in March. A son announced on stream, gender revealed on stream, name surfaced in a Twitch chat. Another Sun UN fathered in a post. The naming happened where the audience was live. The UN naming happened where the audience was scrolling. Extend the defense with what the folder now holds. The trademark serial number on Solar Porter was filed 4 days after the pregnancy stream. The prayer for Chrisean Jr. canvas got a fresh visual update 8 days after the denial. Wack 100's verb of choice is maneuvering. Rolling Stones is reversed himself. The Miami boat frame is a $2,400 a day frame. And the same 3 words, I got proof, got drilled 4 times inside 12 hours from a grandmother's account on the eve of a hearing. Every one of those receipts pushes the ledger read further, not the drama read. The drama read explains a story. The ledger read explains a slate. The jabs, and I'll keep them on decisions. Continue the plot is the tell. Nobody describes fatherhood as a plot unless they've been thinking of it as programming. 2 DNA tests, 4 years, 0 resolution. That's not confusion, that's a chosen ambiguity, because ambiguity is renewable and certainty ends the series. And the deletion? Deletions cost nothing. They are the cheapest content in the world. You get the headline and the walk back in the same afternoon and pay for neither. Add these to the ledger, evenly spaced between the ones above. A trademark filed 4 days after a pregnancy stream is somebody who knows the news cycle better than the news cycle knows itself. That's not instinct, that's calendar management with an attorney on retainer. Almost sympathetic on this one. Actually, anybody carrying a $13 million judgment and a suspended sentence is going to make a lot of decisions the rest of us don't have to make. Doesn't excuse the decisions. Explains the incentive structure. Dry version. A person who describes a child as the plot on Monday and files a trademark on a different child by Friday has a content pipeline, not a family. Absurdist version. The only party in this story who reliably identifies a specific person as her son with dates, songs, and a distribution contract attached is the party whose face tattoo is being renegotiated in favor of that son's face. The math is not subtle. And the sharpest one, saved for last on this side. The account was compromised. Defense collapses into a probation breach the moment you accept it. Either he posted it or somebody unauthorized reached the device. The defense is the confession in a different jacket. Meanwhile, the actual parent in this story put the child's name on a gospel single and took it to a church podium. That's the version that doesn't need a phone theft theory to make sense. Somebody in the comments has to know who actually holds the distribution on Prayer for Chrisean Jr., because I ran that down and came up short on the publishing side. Drop it if you know. Watch what happens when the calendar catches up. There's a court appearance on the record for July 29th, and any supervised person whose account produces a viral paternity claim and a same-day deletion is a person whose device conditions become interesting to somebody wearing a badge. The likeliest landing is quiet, no charge, no headline, a note in a file. Quiet is still consequence. Watch how the quiet works, though, because it doesn't stay quiet forever. A note in a probation file is a note that surfaces the next time a review hearing lands. The next review on the Clark counter docket is calendared for October per the 8 News Now class reporting, which means anything that goes into the file tomorrow morning gets reread 90 days later with fresh eyes. The next window will retest whether tomorrow's quiet ages well or ages loud. The mainstream press is going to write tomorrow up as no news is good news. The file writes it up as this is what's on the record now. Don't be shocked when the October hearing gets covered under a Blueface faces new probation questions headline that reads like it broke fresh. It won't have broken fresh. It will have been sitting there since July. Don't be surprised if the wild card is a document, not a drama. If a fresh test gets filed, by either side, through counsel rather than stories, the entire 4-year argument collapses into a single page, and neither camp gets to keep the ambiguity that's been paying them. 3 reads on why nobody's done that yet, it's already settled and inconvenient, it's genuinely unresolved, or the argument is worth more open. Pick one and say which. Now extend the cascade on the wildcard scenario. If the filed test lands through counsel, the immediate secondary player affected isn't Rock or Blueface. It's the distributor holding Prayer for Chrisean Jr. The song has a child's name on it and a paternity assumption baked into its emotional register. Once the paper resolves either way, the song's marketing profile has to be repositioned as vindication, as tribute, or as complication. By the full touring cycle, expect the track to either grow legs it hasn't had or disappear from set lists altogether. Once the paper hits, The catalog moves with it. And the failure prediction for the opposition, the Wack 100 framing camp, is that maneuvering stops working as a verb the second the maneuver is on file. Verbs of hidden agency need the agency to stay hidden. Paper is the enemy of that verb. Once the dust settles on solar, the residue is a kid. 2 of them. There's a paper trail now that a child will read at 14, a post calling him his son, deleted, a post saying he isn't, still up, a grandmother's story archive, a song with his name on it. If you worked anywhere near the reality TV or streaming side of this world between 2023 and now, you already know the machinery I'm describing is older than these particular people. The residue isn't a lawsuit. It's what the archive says when the checks stop clearing. Extend that residue by 5 years, and it doesn't get quieter, it gets louder. By 2031 expect a documentary treatment. That's not a prediction that requires imagination, it's just how this decade has been metabolized on every prior Blueface or Rock news cycle, from the Zeus reality run through the OnlyFans era coverage archived on Vibe. By the next window, expect the streaming platforms to be bidding on the family archive itself, the stories, the deletions, the trademark filings, the Yahweh live cut. The kids in this story are going to have a distribution deal attached to their childhoods before they finish middle school. That's the 5U aftershock the mainstream read won't put on paper, because the mainstream read is still stuck on the Instagram story for Monday. The paper is playing a longer game than the headline is. And the secondary failure prediction on this scenario, the one the opposition camp is going to eat. The phone was stolen narrative doesn't survive a documentary. Documentaries run on timelines, and timelines are unkind to defenses that require you to ignore the 4 months before the deletion. Once the whole 4-year sequence is edited into a single 52-minute cut, the compromise defense reads as a paragraph, not a case. That's the failure the opposition camp is walking into. They are winning the week and losing the archive. Loop closed. The court date I flagged at the top is tomorrow, and it's the only item in this whole week that has a judge attached to it. Everything else is stories. That's the file. Like it, subscribe, notifications on so the follow-up doesn't sink in your feed. If you've got paper the team should see, comments are open, and if tomorrow's docket moves, we're back on it.